A blockbuster audio recording just unveiled at the Oath Keepers trial. It's from an alleged planning meeting after the 2020 election and a few weeks before the insurrection. This group discusses fighting for then President Trump and talked about what weapons to bring to Washington. 5 members of the far-right militia group are on trial for seditious conspiracy. They've all pleaded not guilty. CNN law enforcement correspondent Whitney Wild is live outside the U.S. District Court in Washington. Whitney, walk us through these new recordings.
Well, Anna, this was captured by an attendee. It was a roughly 2-hour meeting that occurred in November 2020. The Department of Justice, has been trying to draw this timeline that begins basically shortly after the election and lasts through and even after January 6th. In this recording, which again was about 2 hours, this is mostly Stewart Rhodes, who the Department of Justice says was the leader of the Oath Keepers, laying out plans for coming to Washington. Throughout the recording, he is saying that people should pressure Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act. And repeatedly, the Department of Justice has brought out evidence to suggest that Rhodes believed if the former president invoked the Insurrection Act, that they could basically carry out these paramilitary plans that they had been putting together for several weeks. Again, throughout this recording, he says that the Oath Keepers would be waiting when the former president invoked the Insurrection Act. Here's a quote from that recording. "If things go kinetic, good. If they blow bombs up and shoot us, great, because that brings the president reason and rationale to invoke the Insurrection Act. Our mission going to be to go into D.C., but I do want some Oath Keepers to stay outside and to stay fully armed and prepared to go in if they have to. So if the expletive kicks off, then you rock and roll." Again, that was a clip from Stewart Rhodes, the alleged leader of the Oath Keepers. After that meeting, Anna, the Department of Justice brought forth other evidence in which 2 other alleged co-conspirators, Kelly Meggs and Jessica Watkins, were saying that pepper spray is legal, tasers are legal. This is during the meeting. They were saying that pepper spray is legal, tasers are legal, stun guns are legal, and it doesn't hurt to have a lead pipe with a flag on it. It was after that meeting that they're accused of saying that this was the moment that they were waiting for, that this was the call to action. The defense tried to zero in on specific parts of this, and it was basically the word legal. And what the defense was trying to say is that, in fact, this recording shows that people like Stewart Rhodes and Kelly Meggs and Jessica Watkins were taking great efforts to act within the law, and that while the language may be bombastic, it was not illegal, Anna.
Remind us, what do we know, Winnie, about connections between the Oath Keepers and any Trump associates?
Well, the Department of Justice, presented evidence using one of their key witnesses here, an FBI agent, who said that they were on this group chat called Friends of Stone. And again, this was a group chat in which they were discussing plans. And the FBI agent says that Roger Stone himself, a key Trump ally, was on this chat, although the FBI agent did not explain in what way Stone may have engaged with them, Anna.
Okay, Whitney Wild, thank you for bringing us that update from the courthouse. I want to bring in CNN national security and legal analyst Carrie Cordero. Carrie, a key piece of what we learned when they unveiled this new recording is that there was a person who apparently was at this meeting who tipped off the FBI that they had this recording and that this was the contents of this meeting, and this was before the insurrection, and yet the FBI didn't connect with this person in advance before the insurrection. It was after, in March, when this person went back to the FBI and said, "Hey, I have this recording. Here's what was said. Do you want it? Do you want to talk to me?" And then they eventually did. So what's your reaction to all of this? Did the FBI drop the ball on this?
I think there's a lot of questions, Anna. So there's 2 parts to this. There's the FBI and the Justice Department's role in prosecuting actions like this. And we dealt with this in the international terrorism context a lot over the last 20 years in terms of their role in prosecuting and bringing to justice perpetrators of crime. But then there's this prevention piece. And in the international context, the FBI worked for the last 20 years to prevent acts of international terrorism. And so what this latest piece of information about the recording, but in addition, Anna, lots of information that has come to light over the course of the last year that indicates there were all sorts of other indications that there would be violence on January 6th raises the question of why there wasn't better warning in advance to those who were responsible for protecting the physical security of the Capitol. So I do think that this is an additional piece of information that congressional investigators in particular on the January 6th committee and the other Homeland Security committees should be looking at to determine whether or not the FBI and other law enforcement organizations were doing enough on the prevention side.